Like, I feel like the majority of anti-natalists out there are just, like, teenagers who are like, well, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't consent to this. So then, like, oh, well, life inherently involves suffering, and you're gonna bring that upon a person without their consent by birthing them into the world? So then what? Like, the only way children are allowed to be born is if we are living in a utopia that we may never achieve or we go extinct? Like, that's just not gonna happen. And in fact, the only way that we're going to get to that better world and the closest thing to a utopia we can get is by more people being born so that we can continue the work of progressivism to fix the shit in our society. Because otherwise, you're just like anti-humanist, and I am a humanist, so not a big fan of that. God damn, my Elden Ring character saw it. What the hell's up with that? Made me play Magic Arena again? Sorry for your loss. I didn't mean to do that to you. Yeah, because of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Because I played Battlegrounds a lot, like 2 years ago or so, when it was just solo. And then I played duos with a friend, and now I'm back in the mix. You should draw them? I haven't actually been drawing that much recently. What was the last thing I drew? Oh yeah, the last thing I drew was a friend's D&D character. This guy. In MS Paint. Here it is in token form. Pretty happy with this one though. And then before that, it was Asura, my D&D character. Yeah, the sexualization of femininity has been a disaster for the human race. Feminism seeks to address this. But yeah, the reason why that happens with femboys or feminine men, why it's seen as inherently sexual for a man to be feminine, is multifaceted. The primary issue at hand is the fetishization and sexualization of femininity as it is applied to women, because women are typically the demographic that are exhibiting femininity. And that has roots in patriarchy and a whole bunch of shit. But now that we've moved in a direction in society that allows for men to be more openly feminine, the fetishization and sexualization of femininity is now getting applied to them. But it's not just that, it's also the homophobia and the fetishization and sexualization of homosexuality, specifically when it comes to men, but it does apply to women, lesbians as well. But specifically when it comes to men, to be feminine, it's seen as a fetish immediately to homophobes because they cannot wrap their minds around a man wanting to be feminine and being happy about that and it not being a sexual thing. They can't imagine a man wanting to be feminine generally. And because of that, the only rationale they can come up with, well, it's probably a sex thing, is going to be the immediate guess that they have because they only think of homosexuality as sex and sex acts. They don't think of the romantic aspect of homosexuality or homo-romanticism, for one, so it's immediately sexual to them, even though it doesn't have to be. And for two, the femininity inherent to even like masculine homosexual men, but especially feminine men, even if they're not homosexual, the sexualization of femininity inherent there causes homophobes to act up. If we were to defetishize femininity, which feminism has hoped to do for a long time, and desexualize it, it would help everybody who exhibits themselves in a feminine capacity in the public, which would include femboys or feminine men. But it would obviously help the majority of people exhibiting femininity, which are women in our current society. That wouldn't be a catch-all fix, though, because you also have to fix the homophobia when it comes to feminine men, even if that feminine man is actually heterosexual. Oh yeah, and it's because like you could be a super buff lumberjack, like the absolute like archetype of masculinity that right-wingers and conservatives idolize. You could look and act like that. But as soon as you make it known to the public that you are at the very least bisexual and therefore interested in men in a romantic or sexual capacity, that is inherently seen as a feminine trait. Because in their mind, it is only women who are supposed to be interested in men in a romantic and or sexual capacity. So for a man to do that, to find other men attractive in that way, immediately makes them feminine in those people's eyes. Because to them, being attracted to men is a feminine trait, even though it isn't. Being attracted to men is not a feminine or masculine trait. It's just a trait of a person who happens to be attracted to men. It's also along the lines of why they fetishize trans women and only see trans women as sex objects. Is one, because they only see women as sex objects. So as soon as a man transitions into being a woman, that is going to apply to them, whether the person who is bigoted viewing them likes it or not, and whether the person finds them attractive or not, they're still going to think of them in that sexual way, even though the trans woman in question might even be like asexual and even aromantic because they see women as sex objects. And then you add on the idea of usually men, in this instance, cisgender, heterosexual men, not being able to understand why a man would want to be a woman. And the reason why this is difficult for a lot of men, whether they know it or not, is because they enjoy a lot of benefits for being men in our society, because our society has been constructed to give men a bunch of benefits, societally speaking, specifically based on the fact that they rolled the dice and ended up with XY chromosomes in utero. So the idea of relinquishing those privileges that have been built over millennia by men of the past in order to privilege themselves and then future men over women is like an absurd idea. Like, why would you do this? Why would you do a rune level 1 Elden Ring run when you can level up and you can be stronger? It'd be like if you picked a body type A, an Elden Ring character creator, and you started with like 20 additional levels you could allocate, rather than the nun if you start as a wretch like a Chad, or if you start with the other ones, the other classes you can start with, I think makes you level 10 or 5? I don't actually know. The idea of doing that for them, it's unheard of. It doesn't make any sense. And because of that, they can understand why a man, in this instance, would want to be a woman, because they only see their manhood through a very like shallow surface level lens. I haven't really thought about it too much. I was just born this way, yada yada yada. Society tells me that I am supposed to be this way, so I am. Very NPC way of thinking. And like, it's fine if you're born with XY chromosomes and you end up identifying as a man and be cisgender, but a lot of people just don't put the thought in because they don't really have to. Society does the thinking for you. So they can't understand if, you know, a trans woman wants to become a woman, not to like relinquish any privileges, or not to play on New Game Plus with no armor, or not for any kind of like sexual fetish or whatever, but simply because they would like to be seen in society as a woman and interfaced with in that way. Like, that's like a 5-foot deep pool, and they're in a puddle, you know? It's impossible for them to conceptualize. And then you add on to that the reactionary politics of bigots and the irrationality and contradictions inherent to bigotry when it comes to misogyny, or when it comes to homophobia or transphobia. And all of a sudden, they're not even going to be close to being able to understand why a man would want to be a woman and transition. Like, they're miles away now. They've been led astray. In my view, more people becoming women is a good thing, because that means I have more things to fuck. But I guess I'm a different kind of beast. You know, I'd be shocked if a man out there, if you asked a man like, yo, would you want more women in society? If they said no, it's like, what are you, gay? Like, you want more men in society then? What, so you have more things to fuck? But you're homophobic. What's up with that? Like, once womb transplants for trans women, or anyone really, but in this specific context, trans women, or even artificial wombs start popping off for the average person in terms of their accessibility, all bets are off at that point. And when it comes to like trying to maintain rigid gender dynamics in society, that shit's gonna crumble like a house of cards. You feel about calling women females? Well, I mean, if a person in common parlance is going to call a woman a female, it already gives me the ick. I just assume that they're probably misogynist in some capacity, unless like you're talking about the context of like male and female, all this kind of shit. Like, if you refer to women as females, you already got 1 foot in the freak bucket, or whatever. What if we decouple sexual relations from the binary of reproductive/non-reproductive activity? I got out of bed at 4 p.m. today. My life is a movie. What if we decouple sexual relations from the binary of reproductive/non-reproductive activity? Wait, so reproductive/non-reproductive activity, you're suggesting there's a binary there. Either you're reproducing or you're not, when it comes to the activity you're engaging in. Decouple sexual relations. This I'm confused about. Do you mean like decouple sexual relations, like if there was an artificial womb? So like, say you're a man, you just give a doctor your sperm, they have eggs from donors that you can pick from, and then it'll be fertilized, and then the baby will grow in an artificial womb, and you could be a single father from there without any sexual relation with another human being? You mean like that? I think that would be fine. Though I feel like if you're going to do that, you need to be vetted, because single parentage is difficult. You wouldn't want people to just willy-nilly be able to have babies on their own, because you don't know what the fuck motherfuckers out there are going to do. They might like mistreat them or neglect them, or worse, especially given like the socioeconomic status of single parents in a general sense. It's likely that that child would not have a great life. I really don't know if that would be a good thing for society. I mean, we're already kicking the can down the road when it comes to parenting in our society. Like, the US has to figure out a lot of shit before that's gonna come to pass. Like, we don't even give fucking childcare subsidized by the government dime to people. Like, we are fucked up when it comes to parenting. It's very difficult already. So that's just it's a topic for when I'm long dead, probably. Though, I mean, apparently there has been like movement when it comes to artificial wombs and whatnot, and even womb transplants. So, I mean, maybe in my lifetime, but who knows? I'm low-key glad the birth rate is declining in America. I don't... So this is a take that I have. I feel like if you have opinions on the birth rate in general in America, I'm gonna look at you sideways. Because I don't have a take on it. If the birth rate goes up, I don't care. If the birth rate goes down, I don't care. I do not care. I don't know why people do. Well, I know why a variety of people do. Like, I know conservatives are mad about it for culture war reasons, and because they want to pop out a billion children to indoctrinate into their conservative worldview in order to vote Republican, because they know that the younger generations are becoming increasingly progressive, which is contradictory to every other generation previous to millennials, who would get more conservative as they age. I also know that there's a lot of racism and xenophobia when it comes to immigration and wanting the natural-born citizens of the United States of America to be able to produce enough children so that they're not replaced by, people immigrating here as they have done since the dawn of the existence of the United States of America, and provided all manner of benefits to our society. So, like, I can understand why dumbasses feel a certain type of way when the birth rate goes down. Now, if you feel some type of way, like, negatively about the birth rate going up, it's okay. You're probably, like, 13 years old. You're not going to be having children anytime soon. You're not going to have to worry about that, okay? Like, you may not want children in your life, but, like, you got time to think it over. Anti-natalism is a very dumb worldview. I feel like most people who engage with it, I would hope, are just memeing. But for those who aren't, I feel it very silly. Oh yeah, and obviously, like, industry wants the birth rate to go up so more workers are produced. So that, they can exploit more people and make a whole bunch of money off of the back of their underpaid labor. Like, I feel like the majority of anti-natalists out there are just, like, teenagers who are like, well, I didn't ask to be born, I didn't consent to this. So then, like, oh, well, life inherently involves suffering. So, like, and you're gonna bring that upon a person without their consent by birthing them into the world? So then what? Like, the only way children are allowed to be born is if we are living in a utopia that we may never achieve before we go extinct? Like, that's just not going to happen, man. And in fact, the only way that we're going to get to that better world and the closest thing to a utopia we can get is by more people being born so that we can continue the work of progressivism to fix the shit in our society. Because otherwise, you're just, like, anti-humanist. And I am a humanist, so not a big fan of that. But like I say, like, if you're an anti-natalist, like, you're probably 14. You're probably mad that, you got double homework over the weekend and you wanted to play the 1000-Year Door Paper Mario remake on the Switch, but now you don't really have as much time. It'll be alright. You will make it. Get it twisted. The video games are not going anywhere. What's cringe about being glad people are opting out of having children? I'm not saying having kids is bad, not at all. I'm just glad people aren't afraid to say I'd rather not anymore. Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that. So I'm not really responding to you after, like, the first time I read your message. Because, like, I read, but also fucking kids, I'm low-key kind of glad the birth rate is declining in America. After that, like, I remove you from the equation. I just use that as a jumping off point to talk about some other shit. Sorry if it feels like you're being targeted here. I'm talking in an abstract now. Using that as a jumping off point. I probably should have been clearer about that in the beginning, too. But yeah, it is genuinely a good thing that, societally speaking, people aren't getting pressured into having kids when, one, they're not ready, and two, they don't want them. Because, like, it'll only increase the likelihood that that child will not have a good life, and then it'll reinforce a cycle of that same problem over and over, and then you get conservatism in America. Because everybody's got fucked brains. And especially considering socioeconomically in America, anyway, it is prohibitively expensive to have children for the majority of working people. So having a kid can actually be a major, like, devastating change to your life, financially speaking, which will then cause negative downstream effects to the child's upbringing, and will continue that vicious cycle. Because the children of parents who are poor tend to stay poor as they, become adults, and so on and so forth. Now, the problem is that it shouldn't just be people who are wealthy that are able to have children, because that's how you get the UK. That's how you get the inbred fucking monstrosities that Great Britain monarchy produces. That's not good. But we need to make society such that if you want to have a kid, you will be supported in a variety of ways in order to do it. So, for one, you should be getting paid good wages for your work. You should have democracy in your workplace so that you can make sure you have good conditions, which would include also being able to fight for mandatory paid family leave, maternal and paternal, would also include paid time off and flexible scheduling because kids get sick, maybe your spouse gets sick, so you have to stay home and take care of the baby and your spouse. Health insurance, because you're going to need to pay for insurance for the kid then and bring the kid to the doctor and all this kind of shit for regular checkups. There's a whole bunch of things that the U.S. social safety net and the tax revenues the state generates should be going to support. And those are first order things we need to fix before anybody would, who wants the birth rate to rise, would be able to get that outcome. So it would essentially include every policy prescription that a leftist will often talk about to make people's lives better, would only aid in people's ability to have kids, should they want to. And if they don't want to, there shouldn't be a societal push for them to. Because I feel like a lot of it is cultural. Like, a lot of the pushing people to have children, that cultural idea is kind of dead a little bit. And not only is it just culture moving and changing and people becoming more progressive in their politics, not seeing women and anybody with the capacity for pregnancy as baby incubators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not only is it just that, but also the socioeconomic factors that people are subjected to, making it difficult to have children and not financially feasible, has kind of put the nails in the coffin of that cultural idea of expecting everybody to have children. Because it's for the majority of the human existence, it's probably going to be the case that the majority of people are going to end up reproducing, because that's just the way humans work. And it continues the existence of the human species, which is a drive that a lot of people have. I have that drive, even though I don't want children, because I want to see a world made better for all humans on it, so that the continued existence of the human species is as good as it possibly can be for everybody within it, and for those outside of the human species, like the flora and fauna of this planet, its geology, etc., etc., which is why environmentalism is the thing that I'm interested in. Because that also helps humans, obviously. Like, leftists are some of the most pro-human species, human race ideologies you can get. And conversely, conservatism, and especially fascism, though it's hard to tell the difference in America of the modern day, is literally a death cult that would destroy the world, everything on it, and the human race, if left to its own devices. Like, we've seen fascist regimes of the past. Once they get done killing a whole bunch of people they don't like, they start killing themselves, because they need an outgroup. So once the initial outgroup is gone, they have to find another outgroup within the in-group until there is nobody left. And then you get, the fall of a variety of fascist regimes throughout history. I also can't fathom raising kids in the U.S. state with a god-awful education system like Mississippi. Yeah, that too. The South loves Mississippi. The only reason why is because they can say that they're not Mississippi when talking about what the worst state in the Union is for people to live in. Arkansas is fighting, though. Fake-ass state, Arkansas. We already got Kansas. Now we got Arkansas as well. They're just trying to beef up the electoral college vote for the red team. Just like North and South Dakota being two different states, when it's just like, there's like three people between them. Like, there's a mom in South Dakota and a dad in North Dakota, and that third person is their child, and they just have visitation going back and forth. We need to split California into three different states. We need to unify the Dakotas. We need to enfranchise Puerto Rico into the Union should they vote to have that happen. And then we need to make DC a state as well. Bada bing, bada boom. And also abolish Arkansas. Just the concept of it. Get rid of it. Subsidize all Arkansans moving to another state. And just Control-Alt-Delete, find Arkansas in the processes, and end the task. Puerto Rico statehood seems like a thing that could happen in my lifetime. Yeah, DC too. It's just Republicans are going to stand against it every step of the way because they understand that it would lead to less electoral college success for them when it comes to elections. And it would also change the makeup of the Congress and theoretically weight it in favor of Democrats. The only reason why I would ever weight it in the favor of Democrats is because it is Democrats that want to enfranchise DC and Puerto Rico as states. And theoretically, that would make Puerto Rico have less of the U.S.'s boot on their neck and would improve, hopefully, the lives of the people within it. And that would be seen as a positive, I would imagine, for a lot of people there, should it go well. And the Democrats would be responsible for that, obviously, because they're the only ones voting for it, whereas Republicans are standing against it. But eventually, it would probably equalize. And it might still, like, lean blue, but how that tends to happen. Didn't Puerto Rico already vote to become a state? I think so. I just always make it a point to say, should the people of Puerto Rico vote for it? Because if they wanted to not be a fucking vassal state of the United States, I would also be okay with that. It just seems like, after all this, it's probably going to be a more beneficial arrangement for them to... Well, for one, they're never not going to be a vassal state of the United States. Like, that's never going to happen, unfortunately. So, like, the best case scenario is becoming a state. But if it was, in fact, possible for them to be independent, sovereign, Puerto Rico as a country, I would support that if they wanted it, if the people there voted for it. It would just be a more difficult road for them, if it ever came to that. The right would love the policies I talked about earlier when it came to childcare and parenting. If they could be for white people only, yeah, for sure. The cycle of poverty in a variety of impoverished areas tends to directly, like, negatively impact people of color, black and brown people. And it allows for a whole bunch of positive messaging and fear-mongering on the right. I don't think they would want to change that. But obviously, poor people would be disproportionately helped by a variety of childcare policies and initiatives because they are the ones with the least resources and would need the help the most. But my view is that these policies should be universal. If Bill Gates wanted to send his newborn child to a public, like, government-subsidized daycare, he should be allowed to. I don't see why he wouldn't. But it's likely that he wouldn't anyway. Probably have, like, a nanny, you know? He has $1 billion, million, gajillion dollars. He'd probably lose money transporting a child to a daycare rather than just having some nanny get transported to his domicile, given the amount of time it would take to do that on a consistent basis. If anything changes, like, when it comes to the human existence, in terms of, like, our base necessities being eradicated in some way, where, like, we don't need to do a certain thing anymore, and it doesn't cause any negative repercussions on us, I would vote for sleep. I've always said this, and this is obviously my bias, because I've had a sleep disorder essentially my entire life, especially my entire adult life, but even in high school. If I could just, like, not sleep and have no negative repercussions, feel like I've gotten a decent night's sleep at all times, and also not have the negative, like, mental aspects of not sleeping, that would happen if it just didn't need to be done anymore. Because obviously you need to sleep or you'll go insane and die, probably. Obviously in this hypothetical, that would all be taken care of. It would be cool if sleep was just, for me anyway, it was just like a recreational activity where I could just, like, lay down, go unconscious, and hallucinate for a while. But I wouldn't want it to be a necessity. Like, I'm fine with pissing and shitting. I don't need that gone. I enjoy eating. Hunger, you know, it's a bit lame if you don't have the food. But hunger is pretty good when you want to eat some good food and you have the capacity to do so. I feel like without it, food wouldn't taste as good, you know? Oh, I enjoy sleep too. I love sleeping. It's just been disordered, like, my entire life, which is why I'm kind of mad with it, or mad at it. I love dreaming. I've spent a lot of time doing it, but I wish I had a choice, you know? Because then at that point, I'd be sleeping recreationally. But if I didn't want to sleep, I wouldn't have to. What are the other base human needs? Socialization? There's no reason to get rid of the need for socialization. In fact, that would probably, like, make our society worse. But I guess in this hypothetical, it wouldn't have any negative consequences. Because if that's the case for the sleep thing, then it would have to be the case for this. But I feel like the drive to be social is, like, it can suck if you're having difficulty being social. But, like, I feel that. I feel like it's pretty chill overall. What else is there when it comes to... I'm thinking of, like, the Sims needs meters. Oh, hygiene. I mean, I feel like it would be cool if I didn't have to shower regularly to maintain my sanity. But, I mean, showering is also nice. But that doesn't mean, like, you couldn't just shower if you wanted to enjoy, like, warm or cold water and, like, exfoliate or whatever. Plus, like, it's sometimes getting dirty is fun. Like, if you're, I don't know, climbing, fucking bouldering. Or if you're, you know, at the beach. You're getting all sandy and whatnot. But I guess that those things would still be possible. It's just that, yeah, I guess you would still get dirty. You would just not need to get clean. Like, it would just, somehow, you would just stay clean. So, like, even if you were, like, covered in mud, in this hypothetical, you could just, like, flip a switch and then it's not on you anymore. Elden class touch is needed for babies. Babies literally die without it. Yeah, that's why skin-to-skin contact is very important for newborns with the mom and the dad. Breathing? I don't know. I think breathing is pretty cool. I mean, for me, it would be great if I didn't need to breathe to live, because I've had sinus allergy issues my entire goddamn life as well. But, like, in terms of, like, the hierarchy of needs that I would want to get rid of, sleep is number one. If I could just sleep as a goddamn recreational activity, that'd be great. Have you heard about the 25-hour cycle for sleeping? Some people are born with extra hours baked into their internal clock. I have not, but that's not my existence. I require more sleep in order to function, and if I don't get it, I'm literally useless. Because I have constant fatigue from a variety of comorbidities. So even if I get, like, good quality 8 hours of sleep, I'm still going to wake up tired. I have not woken up feeling rested for as long as I can remember. Maybe when I was, like, a young kid. But because of my allergies, the antihistamines I have to take, it's just fucked. Like, it takes me, like, an hour to, like, become a functional human after waking up a lot of the time. Like, I can get up and be a functional human being. I had to do that for 10 years of my goddamn life when I worked in the workforce. But, like, I'm essentially a zombie for a while. And I'm always tired. But that's just my life. Want one of those booths that they have for pets where it just rapidly douses you from all directions? Well, yeah, I used to have this. I used to have, like, a complex when I was, like, in middle school about my hair. I hated having to wash it because my hair is obviously naturally wavy/curly. And I didn't like that as a kid, mostly because I didn't know how to care for it. So I would always straighten my hair. And showering meant my hair would not be straight anymore, so then I would have to straighten it again, and I didn't want to. So I would just let my hair be fucking grimy often. And I always thought, like, what if there was just, like, a bottle you could, like, spray, and you wouldn't have to get wet to get clean? That'd be sick. Luckily, I've grown to like my hair. It still fights me, though, but I've gotten better at maintaining it. Dry shampoo? You can't only use dry shampoo. But, I mean, it would probably help not have my hair be disgusting. But, like, this was when I was in middle school. I am 28 now. That's not being a problem for me in, like, my freshman year of high school. Oh, yeah, I first tried Margit with this build. That was on this Elden Ring run. I love dreaming while awake using rare meditative techniques, but it's very socially unacceptable. I get that. I would take a pill that provided me with nutrients and also say to my hunger, I should have just don't like eating sometimes. That's fair. I mean, it would be cool, because, like, there are some times, but this is usually just my laziness, where, like, I don't want to eat. It would be cool, but you can get, like, a meal replacement, like a Soylent or whatever, you know? It's not ideal, but, like, in a pinch. Moved to Australia, like, 3 months ago, and I miss having a bidet. I mean, you could get one, right? And it might not be as good as, like, the Giga bidets that come with the toilet built in, but you can get, like, ones you can attach. Worst case scenario, you just, you know, your final step, like, you use toilet paper first, and then at the end, you use wipe to essentially sanitize. Have a heated bidet? Wait, what does that mean? Like, the water is heated? I guess that would make sense, considering if it's super cold, it could be a bit jarring. Oh, this is classic. Oh boy. He's got some middies on him. Also, the fucking bell-bottom jeans. That's crazy. Oh, sorry, I forgot. My music was playing at the same time. Your audio is lower than normal? Is that true? Oh, it kind of is, huh? I'm seeing it when I'm talking. You're right. I pumped up the gain a little bit. Anyway, I think I'm gonna use that as a segment. I'm an hour in. I'll take a quick break at this point.